All right, welcome to the CBL show for the week. This week in CBL, it's just me right now. I've got some boo birds in the comments already, which is exactly what I like to hear. It's the motivation that I need for the evening. For those of you who don't know me by now, which is almost impossible, my name is Ram. I'm speaking on behalf of UConn, and I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm going to see some of the guys join me a little bit later tonight. I know for sure Benny will be. So I'm going to pause off some of the top 25 stuff until I have at least somebody else to talk to me about that, because otherwise it's going to sound like I'm just talking to myself, and that's just a little bit crazy. I see Chuck is in there too from Delaware as well. So good evening to everyone who's tuning in tonight, or good day to you if you're watching us in the AM. Welcome to another week of us talking about our beautiful fake fantasy league. We've got a good show set up for you tonight. We're going to be talking about a lot of Bens, the Benjamins, the money that's moving, the Ben Browns, the guys that are moving, and Benny, who made a 5-team deal last week, and he is the man behind a lot of the machinations in the trades this week. There's LSU checking in. Of course, as soon as I get Benny on, I'll probably jump on to have a top 25. Looks like I've got Peter from Rutgers in too, so I'm going to put him on. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Home. Yeah, you're driving home, I'm assuming, Peter, but I know that you're jumping in on behalf of Rutgers.
Yeah, I didn't want you to be by yourself. I know it gets lonely up there, and sometimes it helps to have even just a faceless voice to talk to. So here I am. At least
I was hoping we could bring you in at least until Benny comes on. Benny will be on in a little bit as well, but it's good to hear from you as always. I mean, so while I have you here, before I go into the top 25, because I need Benny for it, and I want you to have attention on it if you could. I don't want you to stop driving and look at a fake top 25. I've heard that you've got some rumblings about the top 25, and you were hoping to see Rutgers on there this week. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I didn't think Rutgers actually deserved top 25 this week, but I wouldn't have been sad to see a vote or two. But listen, here in the Garden State, we're working hard to earn some respect and back in the birthplace of fake college baseball, and we're excited to see what we can do.
Yeah, you pulled off one of the bigger deals of the week earlier today when you brought Juan Soto to your squad. And I feel like you've been working on some other moves now to kind of turn your team from what was a bunch of freshmen and prospects to a team that's going to look to contend for at least your conference tournament this year.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It definitely hurt trading Brian Wu. But when you're dealing with a Mariners fan, it's kind of hard not to have to trade Brian Wu. But we're excited to have Juan Soto back in Rutgers, the Piscataway campus where he belongs. He took a brief hiatus, but he's back. We like Mason. It's funny enough, Mason Wynn's also back. He took a short hiatus as well, but he's back as well, and we're happy to see. And Freddie Peralta, he did have a rough start today, but we're excited to see what he can bring over to us as well.
Chuck, by the way, I don't know if that's for me, but I do need to buy a razor. You're 100% right. I need to shave, but one of my best friends is getting married next week, so I'm going to clean myself up for the wedding. But yeah, no, I for one, I'm very happy about your moves, Peter. I like that you're kind of putting the gas into action here. You're figuring some things out, and you're kind of pushing. I feel like it's a lot more fun to compete in this league than rebuild, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't have to. Hopefully, I don't have to make another fake tournament that doesn't actually matter to get a little bit of more entertainment out of this league. But it's been fun trying to get better. It certainly makes you pay a little bit more attention to your team and to the trade block and see what's going on. And then, hey, does this move make me better? I hope so. I don't know about long term because, again, I did not really want to trade Brian Wu, but if you were, I thought I thought Freddie Peralta was a pretty solid replacement, and I thought that my bats were a bit weak on the weaker side. So again, I know he's hurt right now, but you can never go wrong adding a Juan Soto to your lineup.
Yeah, I think, and your deal may or may not come up later, depending on how much time I get with Benny to talk about trades. I wasn't going to keep him too long since I don't have the you or Ash provided trade graphics today. Since I don't have the CBL official graphics, I've kind of not put all the trades on the board outside of just Discord screenshots, but I do have the top 25, and I did have the standings from last week I wanted to go through. And there's a few teams I know that, I mean, the top 25 alone is going to lead to some interesting conversations because we saw a few teams that were in the top 25 immediately get moved out. I think the Jim here, by the way, I'm 2-0. Thank you, Gunnar Henderson. We had a few surprises in week one, but I don't know if you remember it much last year, Peter. But that first week, like those first 2 weeks of the top 25, there's a lot of things that people need to figure out because for that first vote is kind of a feel of people thinking, okay, I like these players, I think they'll do well, and then after a week of performance, you see people kind of shift right off the bat and just say, okay, this guy was 2-0 and had the 7th most points in the leagues. I must have made a mistake. He's now in the top 25.
Yeah, and I think that, I did not actually read the top 25 outside of seeing that Rutgers wasn't in it. I basically just looked at 25 and votes, and I saw I wasn't there, so I gave up. But something to keep in mind is this is the longest, besides the 2-week finals, which most people won't participate in. This is the longest section of your season. So the points are going to look a little bit more inflated than they were normally. And, how many players we know get off to slow starts traditionally every year. So I never really put a ton of stock into the first week as far as player evaluations or even team evaluations. But, at least with this league last year, it was pretty obvious to tell off the bat that pitching was going to be the big point getter. It definitely seems a lot more fair, but again, like I said, longer stretch of a week. So we'll see what happens next week. We'll see how the points differ out between hitters and pitchers, but I think this is going to be the real week where you see who's contenders and who's pretenders.
Yeah, that's Kyle B. I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, I think that's Illinois checking into from the Big Ten. Corn standing up. That one's for you, Commish.
Oh, hell yeah, Corn. Yeah. Listen, the Big Ten's a lot better this year than it was last year. I'm really proud of everyone for trying. And it's good to see that this is no longer a two-headed beast of a conference.
No, I mean, last year, and these two names are still at the top. I mean, speaking for your conference specifically, Penn State and Indiana State were kind of duking it out last year at the top, and they're right back there again, both of those teams starting 2-0, and they're in the top 15 in scoring. So no surprise there for guys that are very aggressive in building their teams, but you've got some other people who are really making moves, Illinois being one of them, and trying to put their name on the map.
Yeah, and especially, considering that this was not a very strong conference last year, there's, like we said, Varno and Andy are going to be there, but you have 6 other spots to grab for. So, and Ram, better than most, just making the tournament, what you can do. So it's cool to see everyone really making a push for those other 6 spots. And who knows, maybe one or two of us can give Andy and Varno a run for their money for top 2.
Yeah, I mean, some who are dedicated watchers might be surprised to know that at the top of the big right now is not Andy or Varno. It is a team that was ranked under both of them to start the year, and that's Minnesota's Golden Gophers. They're 2-0 with over 4,200 points scored so far. They're one of the best teams in the league, alongside Illinois. The Terrapins are also 2-0. The Wichita State Shockers are 2-0. And also on top of that, Michigan State Spartans started as a ranked team number 24. They went 0-2 last week, and now they're facing you, and they're going off with Rutgers. So how do you feel about that, facing a ranked team in your own conference in terms of, as of the moment, a ranked team in your conference?
Well, since I started playing them when they were ranked, I'm going to consider them a ranked opponent. I think this is a huge test for my team. If we beat a team that was ranked in the top 24 when the matchup started, I think that tells me that I'm headed in the right direction as far as what I'm doing. And, then it becomes the fun game of how far is tinkering before I ruin it. So hopefully I find that balance. And that Rutgers can pull out the win.
All right, I am gonna patch in Benny now too. It looks like he's able to get on. Benny and the Beavs, the Oregon State Beavers, are here to talk ball. Benny, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Oh, it's been a day, fellas. It's been a day. You guys hear me okay?
It's a little bit choppy in
Yeah.
the background. I can hear some background noise, but I can hear you pretty clearly.
Is it better now?
Much better.
All right. Yeah, it's been a day, fellas, but we're here. We're live. We're kicking. We got a lot of rain. So basement flooded. So we got no studio, nothing to record. So we're just live.
So we've got another. I guess we're waiting another week on that Benny the Beavs face reveal, to my understanding.
Yeah. I'm actually about to pull over. I'll hop on, but it's dark. But yeah, no basement. We had like 3 inches of water in the basement.
It's always a terrible thing when we've got real life interfering with our fake sports.
Big facts. Yeah.
Yeah, I hated this doors.
I think, but Benny, you missed the intro. I said that we were going to be talking about a lot of Bens tonight. The Benjamins, the money that's moving in the trades, the Ben Browns, the guys that are moving in the trades, and Benny himself, the guy beyond most of these 40 to 50 trades that get made per week in the CBL. And I, at some point, was going to bring up the 5-team trade that you made last week, but so much has happened in the last 7 days that it actually overshadowed the fact that you made a 5-team deal in the CBL, the first time we've had that happen in our 2 years of the league.
Yeah, I don't even remember that one. What moved in that? Oh, that was Crochet to Varno at Indiana State. That was a fun one. Man, let me tell you, my commissioner, Cal, over there, got cold feet on me like 5 times.
I mean, granted, look, we haven't, by the way, there's Ed jumping in for the night. We haven't had Ed, by the way, on behalf of Indiana, also in the Big Ten. So we're getting a lot of big representation tonight. But yeah, Benny, a 5-team deal has never been made. I mean, we made a big fanfare last year when we made a 3-team deal. I believe Peter and I were part of a 3-team deal last year in the CBL, and that was supposed to be a firecracker. And now here we are with a 5-team standard deal with a ton of movement of players. And then you went ahead and pretty much moved everybody you got in that deal anyway within the following 5 days.
Yeah. Well, so that's not true. Yeah, that is true. But I think, the most amazing part about that trade was there's only one prospect moved. And I would say not only was it a 5-team deal, it's probably the most star power deal that I've seen moved in like anything. When you come to like the names, like you had Roman Anthony, Crochet, Julio, like you had some real names moving around. It wasn't just Fab and Jordan Walker.
No, I was trying to actually get it in one screenshot, but I could barely do that because there was just so much going on in terms of the 2 deals. And it's 5 full teams. I mean, I didn't know that Fantrax could handle that, if I'm being honest. You guys were putting a lot of faith in the system to be able to manage what was coming up and moving 5 teams worth of players.
I took Dave out to lunch.
I'm glad you did, because otherwise I don't think that was going to work very well. If Fantrax couldn't handle all waiver claims, I didn't think they were going to be able to process a 5-team deal. But luckily we were able to get that one through somehow, some way. When let me know when you're able to actually sit and look at the screen, by the way, because I don't want to put up the top 25 and you can't actually see the screen yet.
Yeah, I can see the screen. I'm pulling off right now. So if you want to get it going and launch it, I'll be ready in 15 seconds.
All right, cool. So I figure that, again, we won't be talking too much trade tonight because of the fact that I don't have the beautiful graphics that Peter and Ash normally provide. And I also don't want to keep the guys too long tonight. We ran pretty long our last week. So I'm going to bring up the top 25 and we'll see if we can get working on that right away and start changing over some of those numbers for the guys. So without further ado, let's bring them up right now and let's talk about what's going on. I'm going to add this to the stage and see if I can go picture in picture here. And yep. All right. So I'm going to full screen here. So I won't see the comments for a second, but this is this week's top 25 managers poll. So a couple things that I want to tell people right off the bat. as of now, we had 11 voters this week. So we got a little bit more of a frequent amount of voters than we did before. We're hoping to keep that going and keep it going up. Again, if you're looking to be part of the top 25 voting, reach out to your commissioner. But as you can see, the number to the right of their conference symbol is the amount of first place votes that each team got. For example, Illinois State Redbirds at number 1 again got 6 first place votes this week, 2 for the North Texas Mean Green, who came in at number 2. You can also see, as it speaks for itself, the arrows going to the further right of those votes that show whether they stayed stagnant or they moved up or they moved down for the week. And I was alluding to Peter and Rutgers campus a little bit earlier about the fact that this week is usually the one where we see a ridiculous amount of movement. People overreact to week 1. They start doubting their own reads on teams, and they don't know necessarily if they were right, if the teams just underperformed, and they kind of just align with where the standards are going to be and the standings. So you're going to see right off the bat here, we saw some big jumps. We saw some big jumps up and down of either way. We saw some teams that were recently ranked that almost made it back on that couldn't. The biggest jump up in this week was a tie, because it's a little bit more than a tie because both of them were off the top 25, but Seton Hall kind of takes it. They technically, it says 32 spots, but they jumped from being off the rankings all the way up to 17. Georgia Southern Eagles were also off the rankings. They jumped up to number 11 after a really strong first week. The Portland Pilots moving up. It says 32 spots, but again, they were just moving off the top 25 into the top 25. They're in at 21. Tulane also jumping onto the top 25. And honestly, as you see Syracuse and Maryland on the back end of the 25, we're going to see a lot of movement like this again next week because, again, our voters might be a little bit overreactive. They might turn around and say, all right, these guys are not going to work out. We don't like them. They're not the flavor of the week anymore. But towards the top, we saw a lot of the familiar names. Now, Illinois and North Texas staying at number 1 and number 2, stagnant. The only change there is that Illinois with a stronger stronghold on the number 1 spot with 6 first place votes. Minnesota's Golden Gophers, as alluded to before from the Big, getting 2 first place votes, 1 of 4 in the top 10 for the Big Ten. Minnesota, Illinois, Penn State, and Indiana State neck and neck, number 4, 6, 7, and 8. Only being split up by the ACC's darling Duke Blue Devils coming in at number 5, a 7-rank move up from where he started. My own team rounds out the top 10, and the UConn Huskies have moved up 6 spots. Georgia, of course, as mentioned before, at 11. And we saw some names move off. Bryant Bulldogs with one of the steepest drops. I think personally that's something that's going to change. They're going to make it back in the top 25, but they moved from where they were number 6 all the way down to off the top 25 because of an 0-2 week. We did expect some kind of correction there because, again, even as a ranked team, if you go 0-2 against the league average and you lose against your opponent, the voters will punish you for that. LSU dropping out of the top 25 as well. The Arizona State Sun Devils dropping out, Delaware dropping out, Wayne State making a late push to make it on to the top 25, but not enough yet. Benny, you have traded with just about every single team on this list, whether or not you want to admit it, right? So do you have any thoughts about some of these teams? Any of them stand out to you? Do you remember anything that you might think, hey, this is an interesting thing, or any teams that you want to touch on here?
Yeah, it's crazy that Bryant dropped so far. Like, I get you went 0-2, but what are we doing? I mean, look at his team. It just I was talking to ASU about this, about like Cam Schlitter's good, but are we really gonna just boost a team because he had 140 points in week 1? And that's kind of what it feels like we're doing on some of these. I mean, I'm happy for everyone. But also, like, Bryant fell from 6 to out. I mean, maybe at the back end, but Duke's a unit. I would say, that those top 2, rightfully so, right up there. Minnesota, honestly, like, good for him. I remember us chatting in the offseason a few times, and he was like, I'm just going for it. And I think Ram, you and I talk about that. Like, it's nice when it's cool when someone's going for it, and
Right.
It's obviously paying off early. I'm trying to think. Hawaii too. That's a really unique one because that team is really good. And
Yeah,
that team still
Hawaii,
has an ace in the cards though,
they
because
have a
they're
dual
not going to
ownership.
move. They're not going to move him yet. I don't know if they'll move him ever, and maybe it's just me hoping they'll move him. But they still have a freshman Nolan McLean out there that, if they want to make a run, that that could fetch you something nice. That could make you a real unit come the deadline. But you saw UTSA make a big offer and that Judge fleece free, and you kind of just work through it. As you kind of work through some of these teams here, there's some really good teams up and down the board. Obviously, led by Illinois State and North Texas. Um, did Auburn? Excuse, I don't have the. Did Auburn go 0-2 or 1-1?
I will tell you right now because that was all something I was going to discuss. That Auburn, let me find them on here because they. Let's see. I'm just going to share a screen in a bit here, but it's going to make it a little complicated. But they went 0-2 and Michigan State went 0-2. I think they were the ones that suffered the most in terms of that ranking loss because they went 0-2. I'm going to say Auburn went 1-1. I'm going to confirm in a second. My eyes are struggling. Auburn went 2-0. So they actually did go 2-0, but they're on the tail end of scoring for the week.
Yeah, but we went 2-0. I mean, I get it, but like, you won.
Right.
So I don't. It's interesting. I mean, it's solid, right? It's all going to change. I think you got a lot of risers, a lot of fallers. This is going to be the biggest week. I mean, you lost some teams out of the top 10. Again, the most surprising, especially LSU, because they made a big trade during last week, and they still fell out. And I think when I was going through my rankings, that was also part of it for me. Is like, not only what did they do, but what did they add? I mean, Cal Poly got real good, and not only did they win, I mean, and kick the living shit out of. I mean, I don't even think they won by a million, but they just scored a shit ton of points.
Mm-hmm.
But they also like added Soto.
Yeah, I think one of the things that gets lost in the voting, and not even just I don't want people to feel like I'm attacking them here because when I attack people, they know this is not one of those. But I think one of the things that happens is that people tend to look at the performance of the team week to week and not realize that if there was a big trade made, that hey, they got better. Like I was looking at guys like Auburn. I think Auburn added Senga this week too. For basically nothing. And there were some other deals that went on that I was like, hey, these teams just got better. Regardless of the fact that they did so and so for the week, they just went ahead and they bolstered their rankings. And for me, that keeps them up there. And there's some guys over here, like you mentioned Cal, and I'm going to mention Gonzaga too, because Gonzaga was ranked number 3 coming into the year, and they're now at 18. Cal was ranked at number 5, and they're down to 15. And in my opinion, that's just not going to last. Yeah, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the idea of these guys are going to go back into the top 10 for the most part to me. And I don't mean it as an insult to the other teams. I'm not trying to call you a flash in the pan. I feel like what we've seen year over year so far is that the guys that we think are going to be good are probably going to be good. And I believe that a guy like Cal is going to have his team stabilize and he'll be fine and he'll creep back into the top 10. Same as Gonzaga. He built up pretty well. And there are a few teams on here too that I'm glad that they've gotten the jump right off the bat, but I don't know if it's just off a really strong week one or if they're going to be here to stay, especially at the expense of, again, everybody in that bottom 5 there and the others receiving votes. 4 out of 5 of them were on the top 25 last week. There are a few others that got kicked out, like Michigan State was number 24. They're not even in the top 30 right now, but they're still going to be knocking at the door. So I just feel like we're going to see another shift going into next week just based on a weak performance. And if you're not going 2-0, it feels like you got to watch your back.
Yeah, I think again, I'm a big buy after a 2 week sample size. I think that's a great time, a window to buy. Um, I think 2 weeks basically is the whole season, essentially. So might as well just get the best players right now, and then you're basically the best team. So yeah, season's over. Great work.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I know that Peter looks like he's going to be joining on in a second here with video. There we go. So I've got Peter on screen as well. I love that Mets hat, by the way. Not even just as a Mets fan, I specifically like that color fun. But you've got the top 25 in front of you here, Peter. You know that our friend number 17 right now, the Seton Hall Pirates, are making their first top 25 appearance. He's finally going to get a number next to his name. And at 19, he can't join us today, but fearless leader Ashley Finn, the Louisville Cardinals, making a top 25 appearance. They received some votes last year, but never got this kind of ranking. So we've got Ash on there. We've got Luke on there. A lot of new faces on there too. Kentucky, which was a buy-in from if I remember correctly, they were a dispersal team, and they put their team together on the fly, Kentucky, and they were able to make the top 25. So good on them for being able to make that happen. And so, Peter, what do you think?
So was Syracuse. Syracuse was a dispersal team. And I'm trying to think, was Georgia Southern a dispersal team?
No, Georgia Southern was not a dispersal. I can tell you that for sure, but you're correct about Syracuse and Kentucky. And Portland is not a dispersal, but they were a name change, if I remember correctly. I think last year he might have been UCLA. And I'm just looking.
Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Matt.
Only trade with Matt late at night on Fridays. He's generally drinking beer. That's what I've learned.
Peter, can you hear us okay?
I sure do.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, LSU saying that he brought in Kentucky and Syracuse. So
damn, I can't hear Peter again.
Can you not hear Peter?
God dang it.
Oh, man. Benny.
I'm going to leave this thing and come back.
Go ahead. So as Benny figures out his technical difficulties over there, yeah, LSU, shout out to you for bringing in Kentucky and Syracuse, not only for bringing in guys that didn't immediately dismantle their team, but the fact that you've got 225 rankers here. I mean, they're figuring some things out, so respect to them. Respect to the Orange, too. Carmelo Anthony was my boy. But, yes, we can hear you, Peter, so you've got a second look at the top 25 here. And again, I mentioned this before when you were driving, so I don't know if you got to hear it, but not only in the top 25, but in the top 10, the bloodbath of the Big Ten, there are 4 Big Ten teams ranked in the top 10, and rounding out the top 25 is Maryland to give you a 5th team on there. And I believe, the American has 6 right now, if that's correct with the note of like the symbols. I know the symbols might be wrong, but I see North Texas, Cal Poly, Georgia, East Carolina, Tulane, and the Syracuse Orange. And if the Orange are in the American, which I was pausing because I wasn't sure, but I think they are, and they're 1-1. So I thought that was interesting to me that they ended up that the Syracuse Orange still ended up making it, even though they're 1-1. This is kind of exactly what I was talking about. But outside of the American having 6, you guys have got 5. It's got to feel pretty good as the commissioner of that conference.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, like I said earlier, it was pretty much a 2-headed fight for first place there in the Big Ten last year. The fact that we have a team ranked above, 2 teams ranked above the big boys from last year. It's good to see the conference really improving. Like I said, going into it, there were 6 extra spots open for in the conference title, and a lot of people going for it. Unranked here, but Indiana was 2-0 last year. Last week had a nice start to their year as well. So I have a feeling we're going to see more teams in the Big Ten by year's end.
Yeah, I can't.
About the Big Ten, on contrary to popular belief, after today, that Duke team's a unit. I love Andy, and that team's strong. Like, that's a good team. He's gonna kill. He's gonna kill a lot of people.
And these are motivated managers too. I mean, Varno representing Indiana State almost went undefeated last year, if not for Peter's Mets having a run where it was a really rough week for Varno, where he faced Peter's entirely Mets squad, and the Mets had one of the best offensive weeks in the entirety of the MLB. So it just worked out badly. But he and Penn State were a big fight. I assume that Minnesota's kind of being the silent assassin right now in that regard, because of the fact that he hasn't said much. He hasn't trash talked much. He's just kind of showed up and done business. He was ranked to start, and now a top 5 team. He's 2-0 and leads that conference in points. I think that that's going to be an interesting team to work for. Luca, the commissioner, the Big East, jumping in saying the UConn ranked 10th, such a good team. Did you know they won the Big East tournament last season? That indeed did happen.
I heard rumors of that once or twice.
The Big Ten, I will say one thing when you look at the rosters, they are so junior and senior heavy, though, that if you are a younger team that has any bit of talent, you hold on to that and you just like laugh at everyone in like a year or two because it's going to be really ugly. I mean, granted, everything can happen, right? I mean, I had like 5 players going into the offseason. But I think it is quite hilarious to watch, like all these senior laden teams. And then, there's so many of them in the Big Ten.
Andy, listen, I respect your Penn State and the Nittanylands. I'm just excited to see so much Big Ten representation here. So it's not taking away anything from your team. Your team is fantastic. I'm just proud of the Big Ten as a whole.
Yeah, I think you should be, honestly, because again, them and the American are just built with, and Benny's right about the fact that there's a lot of people who are essentially on elder statesman contracts there. But I think when you look at the fact that we've got 8 conferences, right? And in the top 25, if you're telling me that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are coming from the American, 5 are coming from the Big, that's almost 50% of the top 25 coming from 2 conferences. That's a pretty impressive breakdown when you think about it. And if you look at the rest, I mean, we had a funny thing last year with the Big 12 because Dallas Baptist, of course, was our number 1 throughout the entire year, and he kind of ran roughshod from the Big 12. We've got a similar situation, too, where we've got 2 teams coming in the top 25 from the Big 12, and that's it. We've got Illinois State at number 1 yet again, and UTSA Roadrunners are in there. As last time said, Nitty, great turnaround for the Hoosiers. Yeah, they turned around and had a 1-1 week, so good for them. So foregone conclusion of how many seasons I have. I can't win next year. I got to learn how to wheel and deal like Benny. Well, yeah, I'll tell you something, Ed, as somebody who speaks to the guy pretty regularly, Benny's DMs are open. If you reach out to the guy, he has a good conversation. He's available, and he'll talk you through trades, and then he might get you into one. And if you got Cardinals, even better on that. So keep that in mind.
And if you're in the you're in the Big Ten. If you're in the ACC, you got a chance today.
But yeah, I mean, and Luke, of course, is commenting from the side there as the commissioner of the Big East, but I didn't even get to spend as much time talking about it as I want to. I mean, the Seton Hall Pirates coming in and trying to make the Big East a little bit more of a contending conference. Myself is somehow I'm at the top of the conference right now, coming in at number 10. But we've also got Oneonta, who edged me out in points last week, and they came in at number 13. They did a pretty good job making the top 25, and they were 2-0. Seton Hall with a strong week, of course. And Bryant, like I've said before, I think he'll make it back on there. I think that the Big East is going to see a few more teams kind of push for top 25 contention too, just because there's a few guys on there who are a lot better than they might have seen right off the bat. We saw that last year, but there were 7 teams that started 2-0 in the Big East. And Rhode Island dropped out of the rankings because of the fact that A, he sold, and B, I think people were probably trying to find a reason to not vote for Rhode Island just because they don't get his brand of sarcasm. So Rhode Island got stuck with the short end of the stick, and he's out of the top 25 because people wanted to do that. But he's still got a fun team. And again, 7 other teams in the Big East went 2-0 to start. I'm going to try to switch over to something here if I can. I'm going to try to share a screen, so this might somehow screw up.
I'm going to say something about your team here. And it may be, I know we talked about it a little bit. You better pray for good health because you lost some arms, and you better pray Hunter Brown's back quick because your team is top heavy for sure. But you are a few long injury stints away from hurting, my friend.
Yeah, I was not happy to have Cade Horton and Hunter Brown go down. Speaking just for myself for a second in 1 week, because that just wasn't fun. I mean, Hunter Brown came out like, gangbusters out of the gates, and I really like that because I love Hunter Brown. I thought he was going to be a good guy to kind of bolster my rotation, be my stalwart. He's hurt right off the bat. He's missing at least 3 weeks, which means he's probably missing about 5 to 6 weeks. So it's going to be close to 2 months where I'm going to be without my best pitcher right off the bat. Cade Horton had a good sharp start to the season. He's gone. And I traded him off for some fab because he's gone for the season. So right off the bat, those are 2 guys that I thought I needed to count on. But, being honest with you, Benny, I mean, it's all luck to me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the idea of like I could end up with injuries from guys who are never going to be hurt, and I've just got to deal with it. So I just try to be proactive about it. But it is not necessarily fun for me to come out of the gates feeling like my team was okay, and then Hunter Brown and Kate Horton are gone already, and my backup replacements for that are basically Aaron Savale, who at least had a good day, and Nathan Uvalde had to go out and get him. But we'll see. But I'm a gambler. I enjoy playing the game that way, and it'll be fine. Let me see if I can.
Well, it's starting to sound like we're going to have a listen. I mean, if those guys are out for a period of time, there's no way we're going to not see a dip from you. I could see similar to last year, making a late rally push, and winning your conference again, being a lower seed because of the injuries.
Well, let's see here. This is going to be an interesting one if it works. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to try to make it a little bigger there. Is that better?
Perfect.
All right. So, and I don't know if my Discord notifications are coming in, so I'm sorry if that's showing up or not. But right now, so one of the things I want to point out, some of these numbers are a little bit too up to date because they're not just based on week one, right? But we had, and I'm going to scroll down here to show everybody just for the sake of it, we had 50 teams go 2-0 last week. What does that mean? So everybody played last week, right? We have 128 teams, which means 64 wins were guaranteed, and the others were not. And meaning that, hypothetically, 64 teams had a chance to go 2-0 last week. 50 of them did not. Some of them went 1-1, which means they either won against the average or lost against their team or vice versa, right? But there were 64 wins on the board because of the matchups, and then the league average was a toss-up. So the fact that we had 50 teams go 2-0 means that there is some barrier here between some of these guys that either won their matchups or only won against the league average and kind of figured that one out. The Syracuse Orange, one of the highest scoring teams there, as you can see there, they're technically ranked 51st because of the fact that they are 1-1, right? But let me scroll up here. Are my Discord notifications coming through, by the way, or no? Is it only showing the...
I haven't heard any beeps or anything.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure because I don't normally share my screen, so I want to make sure that I got this right. But if you look here, I mean, you can see the top few teams for points scored. The top 14 teams for points scored right now: Illinois, Minnesota, Hawaii, Duke, North Texas, Cal Poly, Oneonta, Vanderbilt, who didn't make it onto the rankings, but a very, very talented squad, Penn State, Seton Hall, Illinois, UConn, Georgia, and Indiana State. These guys all 2-0.
Isn't Vandy ranked? I think Vandy's ranked. Like 17 or 18, I thought.
I'll pull back for a second. Let me double check here.
I got it up. I'll look.
No, it's okay. I gotta, because I don't think they. Oh, they did make it. They're on the they're 16.
Yeah, I'm locked in. Watch out.
Yeah, you're good. Don't worry. All right, so let me pop back over here.
Don't slight Vandy now, though. The great comment.
No, they're good. All right, let's remove this and let's go back here. All right. So, of course, Vandy, again, a ranked team, so I apologize. I messed that one up. But you see these top 14 teams are 2-0. But right here, although it says 51, the 15th ranked team in points right now in the nation, the Syracuse Orange, and the 16th ranked team, the South Alabama Jaguars, who went 1-1. So as of the moment, this includes, of course, Monday and half of today, because we're at 10 o'clock today. Some of the games have gone off. So it's not a perfect science, but these teams, although they went 1-1, Syracuse made it onto the rankings. South Alabama didn't, but almost identical in what they were doing in points. And South Alabama actually facing a few more points ahead than Syracuse. So keep that in mind, folks. But as we go down further, you can see here a lot of the other teams kind of just 15, 16, 17. These are generally almost all aligned with where they are in rankings. And we got to jump down to the Washington State Cougars, 53rd, who were also one of the unlucky sets that scored a ton and did not make it. But you got a bunch of guys here who also went 2-0 who might have gotten a little bit lucky. Cal has said it himself. He feels a little bit lucky. He's all the way down here in points scored. We're towards the 50s there. where number 5 or the formerly number 5 Cal was ranked, and he managed to scrape out a 2-0 week. There were some guys that feeling that they just couldn't get that going. Arizona's down there as well. Auburn a little bit lower on that list too. And I'm going to keep going down here. Not that bad of a showing here for the Oregon State Beavers, who have constantly improved over the last 7 days. I mean, are you looking for a 2-0 week this week, Benny, or do you
Nah,
think that's
Utah's good. I had 5 starters today, and I couldn't even make up in like I made up ground, but the Cardinals suck.
Yeah, we got some other teams here that North Colorado Bears were the lowest ranked of the 2-0 teams down here. I think that's the last. So statistically, the North Colorado Bears were the luckiest in that way. Yeah, nobody else won games off that. Baylor went 1-1. Musketeers went 1-1. Yep. Michigan State, of course, one of the ranked teams at 0-2. That's why they fell out of the rankings. And
They're doing good this week.
Ram, can you scroll up though to the? I think it's like right around 40-ish where Texas is at. This caught me, and so he sold all of his pieces after the dispersal. And there was a minute there for a good portion of last week's matchup that he was in like the top 20 in points.
yes.
And I get it. It's like small sample size. It may or may not be fluky, right? Like one big game can change it. But like also he's still in the top 50 in points, which is pretty, I mean, for a guy who I'm sure was essentially, I don't want to say mailing it in, but like I'm going to acquire prospects for my good bats, MLB players, to now be top 50 in points. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely. I actually had the same exact thought about Texas. I looked at their team and I was like, wow, that's a really strong showing for week 1 for a guy that was in pretty much sell mode. And you can see a few other guys here, Delaware. And this is, again, just to speak to the way these things broke out. Delaware and Cal about just literally right now 7 points away from each other when you combine everything. And you can see the big difference here is that Delaware got fronted with a lot more points against than Cal did. And Cal was able to just sneak out that win against their opponent. And Delaware did not have such luck because it just ran into a bit of a high-scoring opponent for the week.
But can you scroll down a little bit more?
Sure. Who would you like to see?
Keep going. Keep going. Oh, I am ranked 69. Nice.
Yeah, so you are currently ranked 69, and inclusive of the fact that you went 1-1, 24-56 combined. So a little bit closer to the bottom than you would like. However, of reference point, you did outscore, as of the moment, some teams that hit the ranked buttons. So I think it's just Michigan State at the bottom. I'm going to confirm. Yes. So Michigan State was at number 24 going into this week. The Pitt Panthers were number 23. They also dropped out this week. And the Bryant Bulldogs, who we talked about, they dropped out. I think they'll be back. But you have at this point outscored 3 of those teams, Peter.
Well, I might be on the lower end of points scored, but my team looks very different than it did in the beginning of the year.
Yes, it does. And you're catching up to who was at the time number 3 ranked Gonzaga as well. He went 1-1 last week, just like you. So at the end of the day, I mean, there is a lot. Benny, of course, by the way, up here has outscored both Rutgers, Gonzaga, and all of those teams that we mentioned before that were previously ranked. So you're putting some stuff together there, Benny.
We'll see. I mean, I think it's pitching volatile, right? The hitting buff helps. We got we trimmed a little roster fat, but I like the way the rotation turned out after that series of trades. But Matthew Libator sucks.
Did you acquire Matthew Libator just because you're a Cards fan, or?
I acquired him for like the first 2 months of the season, figured he was maybe good. But I guess it was only the first 2 starts he was going to be good. I do like him, generally speaking. 1, I know that they're going to give him a run, so he's going to take the ball. 2, because they have absolutely no reason to not start him. 2, he looks good, and he looked good through the first 2 starts. And it was kind of one of those, like, average pieces to get back. When I was making that, he was part of that 5-team trade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just a filler piece for my rotation because I think I acquired 5 pitchers in that trade.
Yeah, I have 2 screenshots for that, and I'll try to pull it up after because it was really difficult to try to screen cap that on Discord. But yeah, we've looking at the top here, I mean, this kind of aligns with what we were looking at in the top 25. I mean, in terms of points scored, at the end of the day, it is just about points scored when you're looking at these rankings and where you think the teams will be. Oneonta, I think, not given as much love, although they did get a big jump. They're close to the top 10, so they're getting some respect. Vanderbilt could be closer to the top 10. They're ahead at the moment of where Penn State, who's the former champion of the Big Ten, as mentioned before, I should put respect on his name. And Seton Hall, of course, again, also out of the top 15, but they're a top 10 scoring team as of this moment. Illinois, who chimed in earlier around there too, Georgia too. So I think I will say, with respect to the fact that sometimes he drives me nuts, South Alabama probably given the least amount of credit for their performance last week, because if I can see you on the top screen here, which means you're essentially top 15, top 16, I think is where they rank right now in points scored so far through a week and a day and a half. That's close to getting some votes and getting some respect. So South Alabama did not get the respect they deserve right off the bat, as some of the other voting darlings did. Maybe it's a personality thing. Who knows? Was Vanderbilt also a team that was in the dispersal, Benny? Do you remember?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
Because I don't remember Vanderbilt that well, and my gut is telling me that
Yeah, he was.
they were a dispersal team.
Yep. You know what team I'm really interested to see?
Bryce, by the way, commenting. Hope my opponent South Alabama got some love last week. Finished 16th points overall and 5th most for this week. I was watching delayed and you were talking about it. Yeah, I honestly think it's really fair to say that if I go back and look at that screen, that they didn't get the love and respect from the voters that some of the other teams did, but they put up some big numbers. And if you're top 16 in this league right now in points overall, and you just had a little bit of bad luck because you went 1-1, I think that's got to matter for something. And I do think it'll hold up over the span of next week. But again, he's got to win. The only thing is he's running into you now, right? And the difficulty of running into the number 1 seed makes it so much harder, because at best maybe he goes 1-1. I mean, if he can topple you, that's going to be huge. It's going to be a statement. But if not, at best, if he goes 1-1, it starts him off 2-2, even with a lot of scoring. So it's hard. We've got a harsh voting committee, as I've come to understand.
I'm interested to see Illinois over the next
Benny, I think you're muted right now.
Oop, can you hear me at all or no?
Hang on a second. This might be me. Peter, are you still there? Okay, so now it's actually
right here.
me. So give me a second, because I'm now having. I think the switch off is giving me. Hang on one second.
Oh, boy.
There we go. No, we're good. I know what happened. I know what happened on mine, because talk to me, Benny. Yeah, we're good. That was more so a tech issue on my end, so we're good. We're all fixed.
I'm really interested to see how Illinois, what happens here over the next few weeks, because they definitely got carried by their offense. Soto and Betts to the IL. For sure this matchup, and we'll see what next match. I know Soto 2 to 3 weeks it said. So I'll be interested to see how he fares there. I mean his lineup's still loaded, so I'm not overly concerned. I mean I wouldn't be if I were him. It'd just be super interesting to see. But he does get Saya back. I think that's going to be relatively soon here.
So here's I was going to go into something here and kind of pick you guys' minds on it too. It's again just 1 week and a half, right? But I'm going to share screen one more time here, where I show the breakdown of the way the points were scored, right? And so let's share here. Let's switch over. So you guys can see this, okay?
Yeah.
So you can see here. I mean, correct assessment there by Benny up to this point where we are, again, inclusive of today and yesterday, right? So it's week 1 and a little bit more. Illinois State number one there. They got a lot from their hitting, 1,070. That's third most in the entirety of the CBL. Shout out to Illinois, who clearly has decided that pitching doesn't matter as much. They had a massive performance so far from their hitting, 1266 overall, and only 500 from their pitching. So they had a strictly, like, their hitting was classes ahead of everybody, and they had a lot less on the pitching side. Bryce there at 1070 got a lot from hitting, third most in the league. Oneonta 1040, but a similar situation there. 744. Washington State, same thing. 492 only from pitching, but they got 1,000 clean from their hitting. If I switch over to the pitching side, you can see Georgia Southern Eagles, the opposite of Illinois here, 1243 from their pitching. Whopping huge totals. Minnesota 1207 and 560 only from hitting for Georgia. So you can see that breakdown. Bryce, arguably one of the reasons why they think he's the number one team and got my number one vote as well, is this balance right here. I mean, he got over 1,050 from both his hitting and his pitching. That is the only team that was able to do that, where he was able to get that type of balance. No one else got that type of balance. Some people came close, right? But nobody got that balance between both sides. So he's the most injury proof here. Again, I'm switching back over to pitching here. You can see the pitching dominated guys. Duke with almost 1,200 from pitching. Seton Hall pulling again the Georgia State strategy, 1152 from pitching and 588 from hitting. So anything stand out to you guys amongst these teams here between the hitting and pitching?
I mean, it's cool to see, Luke up in the top teams there. We're friends, obviously, in real life. So I've kind of had a little bit more interaction with him than I might have had with some of the other owners. So to see his process and to see it really paying off for him is cool to see. And it's kind of funny to see the trend of a lot of these teams are way more focused on pitching than hitting.
Yeah, two teams that Benny mentioned earlier that really, of course, Cal Poly right here, they had a pretty close balance. Not as much as Bryce in terms of total points scored, but this is a brilliant balance. 863 from hitting and 959 over on the pitching side. And South Alabama need a little bit more juice on the hitting side, but 1,000 from their pitching, 735 from hitting. I mean, those are great numbers. Those are absolutely just great numbers to see. And North Texas, again, of course, 1,000 here from pitching, 861. So, and I mentioned Hawaii already, but these are powerhouse teams. There's a reason that they're ranked so high. And I'll switch back over to the hitting side here.
I'll be interested to see if some of these Soto owners do sort of what Washington just did. I don't think you can sell low on Soto because I think there's a value to him. But being out 3 weeks with such a short season, regular season, essentially, right? Like that's a quarter of our season, a fifth of our season, essentially. You're missing he's missing 4 matchups. Can you capitalize? And I think he just got 3 arms back. I don't know. Didn't you make that trade, Peter?
Peter is the one who made that trade, yes.
So it'll be interesting to see if, another one of the, like Illinois, for example, who's a little lighter, if his hitting can keep up, does he look to move like a Soto for multiple arms that can kind of help balance that out? Obviously high level arms nonetheless, but I think that will be a really interesting strategy, kind of see how that all shakes out, because there's seniors and there's there was just a redshirt trade when we were on this pod that went for a ton, and at some point all the red shirts and seniors are going to get already bought up, so someone's going to have to move something sooner than later.
Yeah, there's some names that are familiar to us from last year, too. I mean, Dallas Baptist, who was the far and ahead number one for the entirety of last year, one of the few teams that went 30-0 in our 15-week regular season, one of 2 teams. You can see here, last year's big strategy was all these big aces, and you couldn't contend with the pitching. This year, it's a little bit of the opposite. His hitting has outpaced his pitching so far, and I don't want anybody to think I'm not I'm skipping over them or anything. It's just you can see some teams put together really good performances on one end, like 914 from Texas A&M hitting on week 1 is great. Just 390 from pitching. They may have to balance out a little bit more. right? And East Tennessee State here, 1,000 from their hitting, only 583 from pitching, more than, Illinois in terms of the pitching, but Illinois got over 1,250 in hitting so far, is leading the pack. You can see here 2 fantasy points per game, just based on the amount of players that are out there, just to show. Illinois State, 10.14 fantasy points per game with 219 games played. I mean, that's insane, right? I mean, he's right around the middle of the pack in games played. If I go up here you can see here, he's still around here, but there are teams that have more than him. It's just, again, 10.14 per game right now, leading him to be the top point scorer. Duke and Minnesota having really good averages. Surprisingly up here, even though he's trying to move off and sell here, again, is Rhode Island. I mean, it shows the quality of players that are on his team. He went 30-0 last year. He's not pushing right now for whatever reason. He has decided to not do so. But again, 9.33 per game and only 158 games played. He is essentially rocking that. Like, he's going out there and still his players are performing. Hawaii again showing up, Georgia showing up, Columbia, who didn't get a crazy amount of love because their hitting has not been so high, they're up here too. North Texas, Cal Poly, Seton Hall again with averaging points per game. These are some guys you would expect, but your point to what you were saying, Benny, I mean, there are going to be some guys that are going to try to switch this around. I mean, balance might be the key in this league. And so it might come down to somebody saying, hey, I might want a little bit more on the pitching side. I might move one of these big bats. And we're going to take a look here.
I just don't think you can. And again, I was 0-30, so I was just shut up in the corner, basically. But, I mean, just looking at the rosters from last year as I've been, making a strategy for this madness, I just don't know if you can win if you don't have a pitcher or 3 in the playoffs that can get you 70 or 80 points in a start. And there is a handful of those. It's not like they just all exist everywhere. There's about 100. I think Andrew from Duke and I had this conversation multiple times. There's like 100 pitchers that can get you between 20 and 25 points a game. There is like 8 that can get you 35 plus, 30 plus, 15 pitchers. And eventually, I think you need 3 or 4 of them on your team. This year, hitting got buffed, but I think you need still 3 or 4 of them at least, with a few fillers that get hot to make a run. I don't know how you can win one way or the other unless you're just so dominant that you have every bat and you just go crazy. But before we pivot, you can follow up on that, but I want to touch on one thing. Where are we at on relievers? Because this has been a really interesting conversation throughout the week for me of like, do we care about low-end starters more than we care about like elite, like not elite relievers, but like relievers that are going to get saves? Because, I mean, you look at like the volatility of a back-end starter versus a guy who's at the back end of a bullpen, like they're probably going to score the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bringing this up here, and I think you guys can see it, right? Unsurprisingly, Mason Miller's at the top of the chart, and Jake Latz has had a lot of, in terms of, he's got a little bit more innings pitched than some of the other guys. Braxton
He's started
Ashcraft,
twice.
Yeah, so him and Braxton Ashcraft gotten some extra time. Nick Martinez too, right? But if you look here, I mean, this is off my screen for a reason. Jakob Younis, I mean, Tim Meza, Rico Garcia, these guys, this is all relievers, by the way, all reliever qualified. These are available guys. Jacob Younis is available. He's only owned by 3 teams. Tim Meza has scored almost 70 points as a reliever so far. He is not rostered by a single team. Rico Garcia is not rostered by a single team. And, there are guys up here. Yes, these are all rostered by 8, so there's no ad, right? But if you scroll down, I mean, look, Tobias Myers here, he's come in with 67. Dennis Santana. If you look at these names, if I'm being honest with you, these are not guys that you were, I mean, yes, Mason Miller, right? And Romano is a big surprise in that regard too. Even Riley O'Brien, your Cardinals guy, right? Sabrowski, Greg Soto off the Pittsburgh Pirates, Braxton Ashcraft off the Pirates. I mean, Edwin Diaz is up here too, but you did not expect
starting, so we can take him out of that.
Right, but I mean,
I get he's reliever eligible, but he's a starter.
Yeah, but you're not you're not looking at like Hergert and thinking, oh yeah, my bullpen is safe with Jimmy Hergert on the Colorado Rockies.
No, exactly. And I think that's the interesting thing is like, now I'm not saying, I got a pretty ridiculous trade earlier this week. And I know that many maybe think I sold Andrew Painter for peanuts. But I did get a wonderful offer for 2 relievers for Andrew Painter. Now I'm not saying like that's a trade because, hey, this guy can get, they're going to score the same in the season because I don't believe that. But it is interesting because I do think there is if you have a decent reliever, they're not going to win you a week. They're not going to lose you a week. Where like
Now,
a good starter is going to win you a week and a shit starter could lose you a week.
yeah, and look, this is page 1. I'm gonna just go ahead and entertain us, right, and move to page 2. This is everybody, right? Matt's is starting, so we can put him aside, but Braden Fisher is out there, Tim Hill. These guys are owned by all 8, but Brooks Raley, who is owned by only 2, has been nails for the Mets. Cole Winn, Jalen Beeks, Valente Biozo. I mean, these are not guys that we would be sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, like they're going to bolster my pen. They're going to help me win a week. But if you get this out of a week, like if you have Fernando Cruz, for example, or I'll even take Raley, who's pitched every other day, right? Raley has pitched in 4.2 innings since the season has started. He's gotten you 61 points. Right. And we talked about this, you just talked about the fact, hey, a great starting pitcher might get you 35, let's say 40 for a really good performance from a non-scoop ball or something, right? If you get one start in the week from him and he goes aces and he gives you 40 points, but you had Brooke Raley in that pitcher spot throughout the week and he gives you 61 points, you actually made out like a bandit and made out better with a Brooks Raley in there instead of the starting pitcher.
Or you could be like me and have this stupid dude I got from Varno, that Folker guy from Miami, and he gets and blows my win and gets -30 for me today.
And then of course, I don't know if Peter wants to talk about it, but Peter, you were on the tough luck end of one bad start costs you the matchup last week.
Well, yeah, it cost me the 2-0. Michael Lorenzen, Colorado Rocky Italian national team legend, absolutely shit the bed and cost me 2-0. So that was lame. Didn't love that, but what can you do?
The volatility of pitching is something that's always interesting here too, because this is of course up to right now. So some of the guys like Sandy, who have now started a third time, are going to have a little bit of a benefit. Jose Soriano the same way, right? And Cam Schittler even in the same argument because he started today as well. But there are some names up here like Taj and stuff again who started today, but who may not be what you would have expected for big points. But the thing that you can see here is that every single one of these pitchers is owned. On page 1, and I'm going to say on page 2, and I'm going to say on page 3. Yep. So you can't get a starter and we've gotten down to now we're on page 4 of starters, and the guys that are available are Antonio Senzatella, Valente Biozo, both Colorado arms, by the way, Javier Assad, and Oswaldo Bido, right? These are not guys that necessarily inspire confidence, but it's much harder to get starters in this league. But again, the first page of relievers, there are some guys that have been useful. I mean, not to give up any of my secrets, but Jordan Romano was a guy that I wavered in on day 1 because his stuff looked really good. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it. And he's helped me win right off the bat. Riley O'Brien was available for a lot of people too. And I can promise you that Greg Soto was also available. Again, Ashcraft was starting, but this could be, I'm just saying, I'm not saying you need to go jump and pick up Eunice right now, but I mean, he is a guy that has made a difference and has already been a difference maker for people if they're worried about relievers, and he'll be available on the next waiver run.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting strategy. And I don't think you should have maybe necessarily like bench relievers because I do think you still need starters. But having your entire pitching, like I've tried to take my pitchers to load up, have all starters to cycle through and then just go with relievers. And I don't know if it'll work. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? Everyone could get Tommy John tomorrow. But at the end of the day, like it is interesting to see how it all naturally stabilizes itself, and then a reliever loses his role, and then it doesn't matter, and or he gets hurt, and then he doesn't come back to his role. But you could say the same about a starter, and it'll just it's an interesting play. I do just think like the Mason Millers, Chapman's, haters, like those guys that are solidified are worth something. But I don't know if I don't know if the rest of the guys are worth something.
Here's what I'll tell you too. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Can I do 50 per page? Will it work with me? It will work with me. Beautiful. So, of all these are the top 50 relievers right now, and a ton of green on the side of guys you can add. And because of that, is as you can see here, I mean, if you look through this category, I'm not going to organize it. I might, but let me see if it'll work with me. Yeah, you've got some guys here who they're saving. David Bednar, 5 saves, leads the league. Edwin Diaz with 4. Duran and Miller, we talked about, are high scorers, right? But look, Ryan Helsley, who sucks, he's over here with 39. Emilio Pagan's over here with 44. Aroldis Chapman over here, 47, 40, 40. I mean, these are not bad, but what I mean is that if I go back to points, that's not all the guys you're seeing here. You're more so seeing the guys who are pitching high innings. Now, obviously, some outliers here in Ashcraft, Martinez, Detmers. These are starters, right? Matz is starting. Griffin is starting. Kyle Leahy is starting. Taijuan Walker is not a real pitcher. Ryan Nelson's starting. Cantillo, Anthony Kay is starting. These guys are starting, sure, right? You get down to Tobias Myers and some of these guys here, they're not all starting, but they scored high amount of points. Andres Gomez not necessarily helpful there because he's in the negative. But what I'm trying to say is that although these guys have a ton of saves, they are not all Trevor McGill in the idea of the ones who are dominating the points. And they're not all dominating in holds either. But these guys help. Jojo Romero of the Cardinals, 71. Sobrowski with 81. He doesn't have a single save, but he's got 4 holds. Solid 80.
Sobrowski was a target of mine not at one point until I got him because he's got that minors eligibility. He's going to take forever to get to 50. I just swap him down, and it's that bonus spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest about the fact that I've got Hunter Biggie on my team for that same reason. He is a minors eligible reliever, and he's got hold and save eligibility essentially because he's a guy that's going to pitch high leverage for the Rays with Uceta out, and I like that. I can pop him in and out if I want an extra reliever, right? But again, if we're looking at these relievers are 90s, 80s, 70s, these are considered really good so far. Those are the guys who are actually getting holds. 70, 80, 75, 62, 63, right? Now, some of them, not a big deal. Pomeranz, Poulin, these guys are kind of just putting up pedestrian numbers. But I think the point of it being, in my opinion, and this is just me speaking as me for the CBL and not necessarily to give great advice, but you do not have to target the highest relievers in this league to get impact relief pitching. There are ways to get guys to slide into those relief spots that are not necessarily the names you would expect, and they're going to perform for your teams.
Great, yeah. I'm sure you're I'm sure the segment is spoiling a lot of people's plans, but it's good to shout out the relievers who are, good for this league. But obviously, if you click, like you said, you click to the top point getter, there's a lot of guys available. You click top saves, even if they're not the top point getters, they're not available. So
correct. I mean, great point there, Peter. As you look here, I mean, outside of Yunus has 2 saves right now, so he's kind of working as a closer. But if you see here, I mean, these are all the top save getters in league. So everyone with 5, 4, 3 saves rostered on all 8 teams across the board, right? But these are not all the highest point getters right now. And granted, there's going to be some adjustment. Obviously, do I expect these guys to stay at the top for the entirety of the year? Not necessarily. But you take a guy like Jojo Romero, who is the setup man over there, and he's pitching nails and has shown in the past he can be an elite reliever. Is he going to be able to hang with these guys?
He's going to get traded to the Mets and suck, so...
I would really, really hope not, because I don't want to trade with the Cardinals ever again after Ryan Helsley syndrome. But
I mean, honestly, some of this will balance out. Like towards the end of the year, you're going to see the closers have high end.
Absolutely,
but it's not the end all be all. Like I look at somebody like Paul Seaworld, who is absolute trash, and he's owned by 8 teams just because he's the closer. He's not good. Like, you shouldn't
Yeah.
roster him.
I think that's, like how some teams stream defenses and kickers.
Mm-hmm.
You can just stream relievers almost. Like, I look at this Fouker guy. I call him the fucker. He was at like 56 points, and now he's down to 25. Right? So it's like one bad outing, he sucks. But like, you can just stream in and out and kind of just who's hot and who's in a good role, who's in an injury. Because I think the reality is there's going to be relievers all over the board. But I do think, back to my original point, is the elite high-end relievers in the long run will score you 700, 750 points. And where does that value, where does that fall in line with like a Matthew Liberatore, for example? Like, he's going to score you right around there too. And would you rather have the reliever who's going to consistently get you 50 points every week? Or are you going to take the Liberatore that will probably get you 100 one week and negative 30 the next?
Yeah, and you can see, again, based on just some ownership numbers I'm spiking over here. I mean, you've got guys like Palencia. He's owned by 96% of teams. He's rostered by all 8 here. 27 so far. Again, it's only been about like 10 games, basically. It's not been that much of time. So obviously things are going to course correct, and some of these guys will be fine, right? Like, I don't expect Andres Munoz to be that far behind Duran and Diaz and Miller when it comes down to it, right? But some of these guys are going to surprise you. And I'm a reliever streamer type of guy. I believe that just in fantasy football, I do the same thing. I stream defenses. I'll stream a defense, I'll stream a kicker because I want more potential in other eyes, and I just kind of figure it out. And I think it'll be that way. There are going to be some arms that you can get a little creative with here when you look at it. And I'm going to give you kudos for the suggestion on Sobrowski. I mean, that Myers thing is a big strategy. I don't know if some of the new guys have caught on to that yet, but if you can get some players, relievers or not, that you can kind of stash in the minors and switch out, it extends your bench. And there's nothing wrong with that. We don't stop your roster moves here in the CBL.
That's what I was doing with Painter early and Sobrowski. I was rotating the 3 of them when they weren't starting. Do we want to, since we're a little past here and I've got to wrap up relatively quick, do we want to move into anything else?
I was going to talk some trades. I just want to, I just saw a comment here. Chris was saying, Benny has a point. I've been hard about this last year. Relief pitchers can win weeks. They won a championship for Northern Colorado, which is correct. Having a top 10 pen can carry more than some people realize. He would know. I did want to go into some trades for a few minutes. I'm going to see if I can pull up just a few of them for the sake of it while I have you. And let me stop my screen share here. Got rid of the top 25.
Peter, before you get up there, Peter, I love that trade. Woo, I'm not selling him. I'm not trading him. Ah, fuck it. I'll trade him for 2 Mets.
Listen, I got a freshman. I got a freshman player, pitcher back. Like, Met or not, I got a freshman.
It was a good trade. I just think it's hilarious. That's all. I just appreciate you.
And the Prime from speaking from Rutgers here on behalf of the University of Acquiring Mets. He, of course, acquired the most important Met of all right now in Juan Soto. And he also acquired another Met in Freddie Peralta. And Benny, I think, just appreciates it because as a guy who targets his guys in the Cardinals, he kind of feels a kindred spirit in you here. And he must feel pretty good about this. But
the problem is the Mets are way better than the Cardinals. Like, I'm targeting shit, and you're targeting good.
I mean, so if I was just targeting Mets, then I wouldn't have traded Bo Bichette. That wasn't the point of this deal.
He's not even a real Met. He's been there for 2 weeks.
Listen, as a Met,
that's not worth. I have, and Bo Bichette and Freddie Peralta might only be here for the year anyway, which is funny, but he'll get Juan Soto for 2 years and probably a red shirt out of it. I don't know what your opinion is on this deal, Benny, but I was telling Peter earlier that I do think that the Huskies got the better end of this deal for a couple reasons. I think that Wu is a much better pitcher than Freddie Peralta. I know Freddie Peralta is on my team, so I should be nicer, but I don't exactly hype him up all the time. I'm no Mason Wynn guy. Maybe you are for the obvious, but I'm not. And I think that he essentially went from.
I just traded him.
If we I don't like him very much. Even if you count this as a red shirt for Juan Soto because he's one of the best players in the league, and we say, okay, that's a sophomore Juan Soto for a sophomore Bo Bichette, I feel like you're paying Vinny Pasquantino for the upgrade, and you're still downgrading from Wu to Peralta. So I feel like the Huskies got the better end of this deal, but he got the best player in the deal, which is Juan Soto.
I think can you guys hear me? My only question is you seemed like you were like itching to go for it, like itching to get after it, and then like you just now sat back for 3 weeks. Essentially, is how I looked at it. Like, you don't think this deal would have been there when Soto was healthy in 3 weeks?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, the way I look at it is, as Ram has preached, you just got to make the top 8. And while the Big
Yeah,
Ten has
absolutely.
gotten better, I still think that I can afford to wait the 3-4 weeks,
I
and I'll be
agree.
okay.
I agree. That was my only question though when I saw it come through. Is like, is this something that could have just waited like 3 weeks or two
I
weeks
don't.
even?
I mean, listen. Take Juan Soto playing for the Mets aside. I don't know if you should take the risk of waiting to acquire a player of Juan Soto's stature if you can get him.
Absolutely. No, that's very valid. So I don't hate the trade for either team. I think both teams did well. When I look at, you know, I don't love Mason Win. Like, okay, Mason Win, cool, congrats. Like, you're gonna hate him, you're gonna love him, you're gonna probably get like one good week out of him ever in the history of the world. But hey, he'll win a Gold Glove. That'll be cool. Freddie Peralta. To me, honestly, Freddie Peralta and Brandon, whatever his name is, Brian Wu are a wash. I know Wu is better. I think the thing about it is Freddie is the ace, so you know he's going to get more turns. Just personally, like he's going to come out, he's going to start right after the All Star break. That kind of stuff. So I do think he's going to get more turns just naturally. They'll still end up roughly the same starts, but you're not risking it if you do make it to the end that he's on the last game of the season. He's not pitching or something like that. Um, Wu is in a better park. But Freddie, I don't. Freddie's an interesting one. That was my Freddie. Fun fact. I know
You have your
shot,
hands on half the teams, half the players in this league.
but that was actually my one Freddie. I will. I love Freddie Peralta. I'm hoping the Mets let him go a little longer than the Brewers did. Um, and Vinny P, I know you love Vinny P. I think he's good. I also think first base is just a really easy position to replace. Like
I
that's just
mean,
me. So
Sear has underperformed a little bit this year, but I'm just like, I mean, I'm putting Spencer Steer in that
yeah,
first base spot.
I think I kind of like did the same thing when I traded Torque, and I get Torque. It sucked when I traded him and then got good because that's just what everyone does when they leave my team. Um, but like Luke Rayleigh, I picked up off of waivers, and Josh Bell, I got in as a throw-in on a trade, and they're both like I think Bell's got over 95 points. So, and I get it, it's early, but I think it's an easy place to sit and and so many multi-positional players for first base, corner infield even. I think it's an easy position to replace. Much more difficult than getting a quality of Juan Soto in the outfield when you need 4 of them. Like you only need one first baseman. You need
No,
4 outfielders.
that's a good way to look at it. I gotta be fair with you. I like that. I'm gonna pull up 1 or 2 deals that also were made. I'm not pulling up the 5-tune deal because A, the computer can't handle it because it's too much on one screenshot, and B, I want to keep it quick so we can wrap up in the next
The
10 minutes.
5-tune deal is basically everyone got what they wanted. That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
I have it here.
You
Like
see,
this is
Santa
half.
Barbara got extra arm that he wanted.
Yeah,
Varno
that's
got the ace. Cool.
first half
Congrats.
of that deal, and then this is the second half. Just for anyone who's looking, for those guys who missed it, it's a lot. It's a lot, as Benny said. Small trade alert though, but switching over
Well,
there.
we
I'm
don't
not
have to
gonna.
go into it. It's not that big
No,
deal.
I'm not, because it's also just too ridiculous. I'm not going to hold you hostage. I'm going to give you one from Arizona State that I'm going to ask for your opinion of, and I'm going to give you one from Auburn, and that'll be it most likely on the night. So
Side
Arizona
note,
State.
I don't know if any of you are NBA fans, but I got this game tracker on. I'm a Mavs fan. They stink this year, and the Clippers just went on a 19-0 run to start the game, and I'm getting texts about it. But anyways, back to what you were talking about.
Jesus, I got James Wood over here, junior, being moved for a senior Kyle Schwarber, freshman Jameson Talon, and senior Chris Bassett. I mean, seems like an even enough deal to me. I don't really like Talon. I don't really like Bassett. I think there's more upside on the James Wood side, and maybe he could be a redshirt if he really hits, but I guess both guys get what they want here.
Arizona State's going for it. I was telling Matt this the other day. Arizona State. Schwarber scares the shit out of me, and I'm playing him 2 weeks in a row because he's one of like 4 people in this league that can conceivably hit a home run every single time he's up, and you know it can happen. Like, I mean, like, there's guys that you're like, oh, yeah, he could connect here. Schwarber, you're like, no, he literally can just hit 4 nukes in a game every single time you play him that week, and it wouldn't surprise you. So I think it's a great get for ASU. James Wood is steep because I don't think either of those pitchers are good. I think those pitchers kind of fall into those high end reliever piece. Like, yeah, you're going to get a few good starts, but shit, are they even startable in the playoffs?
I agree, Peter. What do you think?
I honestly, Benny took the words out of my mouth. I mean, Kyle Schwarber is a great get. Bassett, me and Ram have up close and personal experience with them. Kind of low key ass. James and Talon doesn't really move the needle for me. James Woods is good, but if you're going for it this year, out of those 2 players, you'd absolutely want the Kyle Schwarber.
I think Talion's more valuable now because his spot isn't at risk of getting, he's not at risk of moving to the pen. Not that he ever was, but with all the injuries, didn't the Cubs just have 2 injuries in the rotation? Like, for sure he's starting now.
Yeah, they might be signing Giolito, but that he's definitely at least safe for the time being.
Yeah, so I mean, he's at least going to take the ball, where he was probably their 5th starter before that. But yeah,
no, it's fair. All right, I got one last one for you guys before we wrap up for the night because I want to highlight Fleece Free. This was one of the bigger Fleece Free deals that went on earlier in the week. The junior Tatis was moved off Kansas State and Fleece Free for a freshman Josh Naylor, a sophomore Joe Adell, a junior Cedon Raphael, a freshman Nyans, freshman Wande Ossigan, freshman Colome, freshman Brandon Clark, and freshman Gage Wood. A lot of quantity here. Kind of the epitome of what Fleece Free is going for, trying to get somebody the best deal. For those who aren't aware of it, you are aware of now how Fleece Free works. It's a free-for-all. It's an auction house, and the best bidder is going to win here. This is one of the highlights of that week. Delaware trading a haul to get that junior Tatis. How do you guys feel as we round out? That's the last one I'm going to have you discuss for the night.
Honestly, huge shout-out to KSU. I think they have been using Fleece Free exactly the way it was meant to be. I know in the first show, Ram had a lot to say about unfair trades in this league. And I think that Fleece Free really brought the value out on some of these players, and bravo for them. I think they did great in basically every trade that they did. And really showing the value of Fleece Free.
No, he's working it like a dog. I've done 2 of those Fleece Free trades with him now. Both controversial, I would say. And he, the first one, he got me pretty good. I like the overpay for Judge. Call it what you want. I mean, I obviously flipped Judge for a haul, so I was happy there. But just he's super, super great guy, first of all. Second, his team is still good. It's just younger. I mean, he got Tatis for Judge and then turned around and got all that for Tatis. So, I mean, I sent him Gavin Williams and Tatis and another Jared Jones and another I don't even know what I sent. But then he turned around and got all of that on top of that for just Tatis. So props to him, and Fleece Free, working how it's intended for sure. Definitely getting the best deal. I think he's got maybe 1 or 2 more left in him. But yeah, man, that was a good trade for Delaware too. Because I mean, really, on the MLB side, what did he move?
Right, he moved Naylor, he moved Adela, he moved Rafaela. You take Tatis over any of those guys, right?
Oh, so I take Tatis combined over all 3 of them.
Right. So, I think it works out, and also the prospects are the sweetener. You're 100% right. I mean, looking at KSU's team, they were able to make their team competitive right now, where they're going to be able to compete for their conference, and they got a ton of future assets. So they really utilize Freeze Free to an amazing level. I've been very impressed by what they've been able to put together there to kind of get their team going. So,
it's been super unfun for my farm system. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, I promise I wasn't keep you guys too long. So as we're wrapping up now, do you have any final thoughts you want to share as we wrap up this week's CBL show? Benny, I'll let you go first.
No, I think we got a little venom back in the chat. It's all love though for me, honestly. I think it's fun. It's a fun sport, fun game. Goof around. I think everyone's entitled to, feel their own way. I make trade. I've made 91 trades so far. They're not good. They're not bad. Like I've won some, I've lost some, given a shit about some. I just wanted to get Jordan Walker. Just let me just rest in peace, please, and watch him suck and go 0 for the next 64. And guess what? He'll be on waivers, and you can have him then. But I think there's some absolute units of a team out there. I had 5 starters going today, and I looked around and I was like, damn, I'm like not even in the top 15 of scoring for the day.
There you go. I mean, that's it. That's the nature of the CBL. Peter, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, hey, first of all, Benny, don't feel too bad. Last year, I had collected all of the Mets that I could, and I don't know, I had like 5 wins all year, so don't feel too bad. It is what it is. Fantasy baseball is not real. But listen, Rutgers is trying to go for it. Whether it's this year or next year. Watch out for what's going on in Piscataway.
No, I'm excited for you, man. We talk every day, and you hate me, and then you say you love me, so it's all good.
I never said I hated you.
I love the energy from you guys. I'm so glad you could join me tonight. We're going to wrap up this week in CBL. We'll be back again next week with a few more of our regular cast. Shout out to those of you who tuned in and commented. We appreciate you always. We will see you on the flip side on the Discord. Thank you and take care. We'll see you in a week. Signing off.